Hey guys, it's Apex DFS. I just started this new channel to just bring viewers more content on Draftkings DFS. I know that as a DFS player myself, I'm always looking for more content, more ways, more people's viewpoints on how to create my lineups for the upcoming days. So I'll be bringing you NBA and NFL content over these upcoming seasons, and just give you another look at how you can build your lineups, my thoughts on it, and maybe you can take some of that into your own lineup building. So let's get started. We're going to go through today's slate, go through the prices and what players I like, what players I think are good dart throws, and how I think you should be building your lineups today. So we're going to start at center. We're going to start with Nikolai Jokic here in the Denver-Utah game. So if we look at the odds for tomorrow's slate, we can see that Denver-Utah is at a 221 over-under, with Utah favored by 2.5. So it's a pretty low total, but it's expected to be close. And with the 3-game slate, you kind of need these games to be close. Jokic is a really high usage guy. I think that if this game's close, Jokic is going to have a solid game. In his last couple games, he's gone for 49, 47, and 32, but that was in a blowout. So I'm saying if this game stays close, I could see Jokic playing 40 minutes, probably putting up 45 to 50 fantasy points. It's not out of this world for 9.5 salary, but it's definitely a solid option at center, especially with the lack of options on today's slate. Porzingis is out, which we'll talk about later, but it opens up a lot of value for Dallas. Gobert is someone I don't usually get to because he's pretty reliant on his rebounding numbers and his blocks and steals. Lately, he just hasn't been putting it up despite the minutes. He's averaging less than a fantasy point per minute in this series against Denver. Gobert, he's not going to be very highly owned. You can get to him if you want to become contrarian or maybe with the Denver-Utah stack, but I don't think I'll be getting there on today's slate. We'll go down Serge Ibaka, who saw a huge price bump after his big day against Brooklyn. So listen to this stat line. Serge Ibaka played 20 minutes. He had 15 rebounds and 27 points in 20 minutes. Dropped 55 fantasy points. Insane. So people are definitely going to be chasing Serge Ibaka against Boston. It's not a terrible matchup. They got Daniel Tice and Enes Kanter playing center, who Tice is a solid defender, but Kanter really isn't that great on the defensive end. It's hard to get to Ibaka just because of how many minutes he's going to play. He's going to play 20 to 25 minutes. I don't expect that efficient of a shooting day out of him again, but he's definitely someone you can get to, and he's got huge upside on today's slate. We'll move down to Maxie Klieber, who DraftKings did adjust his price with Porzingis out. He's up to 5.2, which seems like a lot for Maxie Klieber. Last game, they got blown out by the Clippers, so he only played 28 minutes, scored 25 fantasy points. I think that if the Mavericks can keep this one close, Klieber plays 35-plus minutes, and I'd expect 30 fantasy points out of that, especially because there's so much usage to go around in Dallas without Porzingis playing that Kleber's going to collect more rebounds. He's going to score a little bit more. So if you think that Dallas is going to keep it close against the Clippers, I think Maxie Kleber is a pretty solid play. Move on to Zubach. He's a guy who's going to get you mid 20 minutes, 25, 30 minutes. He's He's not the highest upside guy, but he definitely can get you there, especially at a 4.6 price tag. I'm not in love with Zubach, but I definitely, if you're playing multiple lineups, you probably want some exposure to him. Montrez Harrell. So this is an interesting one. Since returning to play, he has played a max of 23 minutes, which is last game. He scored 37 fantasy points, which is huge. He's at a 4.4 price tag. The thing is, a lot of these fantasy points were scored in garbage time, was when Harrell got a lot of the run, and put up most of these points. So the numbers are a little bit skewed depending on if you believe this game's going to be a blowout or not. He's definitely extremely viable just because how quick he can put up those points. I wouldn't expect a 30 piece out of him again, but he's definitely got that upside. If he can get over 20 minutes, he can definitely pay off that salary. Daniel Tice. He's going to play mid 20 minutes. He's nothing to get excited about. Super low usage guy. Tatum, Kemba, and Jalen Brown basically do all the work for that team, especially with Gordon Hayward out. You can get to him. I'd probably get to him in a Boston-Toronto stack. Yeah, his minutes aren't going to be way up there. It's probably going to be contrarian. I don't think he's going to be too highly owned. Boban's an interesting one. So Boban, with Porzingis out, he's played 16 and 17 minutes. So typically Boban is a 1.5. So he's a 1.5 fantasy point per minute producer on average this season. So compare that to these last two games. He's really been underperforming with the minutes that he's gotten. This might keep the ownership lower on Boban than it should be. So let's say he's playing 17 minutes again. So at his 1.5 average per minute fantasy points, he's putting up mid to high 20s points on average if he gets those minutes. Obviously, we haven't seen that in the last two games, but I think Boban's definitely a piece you can get to in the Dallas game. We'll move on over to Marc Gasol. I don't think I'll be getting really to Marc Gasol. He's going to play 20 minutes. He's a good passer. Nothing to get excited about. I don't think I'll be getting there today. Enes Kanter, his minutes are kind of iffy on him, all over the place. I won't be getting to Enes Kanter either. Rondae Hollis-Jefferson, all these guys down here, I'm not really showing any interest in them just because they won't get the minutes to get you there. Not a lot of value on today's slate. It's going to be hard to pay up for a lot of guys just due to the fact that the options under 3K there's very few of them, and those that are under 3K are going to be chalky. Move on to power forward. Jason Tatum, his price tag's risen to 9.2. Last game out, he had a 15 rebound game, which is definitely an outlier. Tatum's a great player. He's going to lead the Celtics in usage, especially Hayward out. Gordon Hayward out actually helps the Celtics guys quite a bit. I think Tatum's an okay play. 9.2 kind of seems like a high price for him. Yeah, I'd probably get to him more if you think that the Dallas Clippers game is going to blow out. Then you could just fade those guys and Tatum becomes a viable option because he's going to be low owned. Pascal Siakam, interesting one. He's been kind of iffy since entering the bubble. The last two games he's been playing well. He's taken 23 and 22 shots, which is actually that's actually extreme upside for him. If he's hitting over 50% of his shots, he's dropping 50 fantasy points. He had 10 assists in the last game. Despite the low total on the Celtics-Toronto game, I kind of really like the idea of stacking this one just because I think it's going to be super competitive. Gordon Hayward's out. Marcus Morris at 5'7". I don't think I'll be getting there. Marcus Morris, you kind of know what you're going to get. It's going to be around 25 to 30 fantasy points. I think that there's kind of better options in that range. Michael Porter Jr. So Mike Malone is all over with Michael Porter Jr. He hates him one game, loves him the next. Depends, honestly, how he's playing defense. If he's playing defense well, he's going to get 30-plus minutes. If Utah's running all over him, he's going to see 20 minutes and not even going to get close to paying off his salary. So Michael Porter, definitely not a cash play. You could get to him in a GPP, but yeah, it's a super risky play if you're willing to go there. His price has really come down, but for a good reason. Maxie Klieber we went over. Dorian Finney-Smith, really low usage guy. He's all the way up to 5K. I don't think I'll be getting there. I just think there's higher ceiling options in that range. Millsap. So this one pisses me off because last slate I went to Millsap after he showed a 20 or 35-minute performance, 35 fantasy points. I crammed Millsap into my lineup, and he only played 19 minutes, and he scored 8 fantasy points. So it's just, I don't know. His minutes are all over the place. I can't comfortably go there. If he goes off, I'm not going to be mad because I really can't predict Millsap's minutes, and I don't really think his production is going to be as high as it was in that 35-point game, even if he sees solid minutes. Jeremy Grant, low usage. He's going to definitely see the minutes, but upside really isn't there. He's not a high rebound guy, even though he's a power forward. He's kind of scoring dependent. He's going to grab a couple rebounds, but he's viable he's one of your last guys you fit in your lineup. Not something you get excited about, but he's an option. OG Anunoby, he's a guy who's also going to see mid-30s minutes. He can get you there in blocks and steals, which is a nice part about these low price guys that can get you there in blocks and steals really shine to me, because even if they don't have the best shooting day, even if they don't get the most rebounds, assists, points, they can still get you close-ish to their salary on a bad day just due to their blocks and steals upside. So OG Anunoby is viable. Every once in a while he'll break out for a big game, but we haven't seen that recently. I might be getting to OG on this slate. Royce O'Neal, he's going to play big minutes along with Jeremy Grant, OG Anunoby, Royce O'Neal. These guys are going to play big minutes. They're really not out there to shoot the ball. They're out there to play defense, and the peripheral stats will come because of how many minutes they play. See, it's just the floor. The floor is so low because if they're not getting their rebounds, assists, they're not really scoring. He's taken 6 shots, 3 shots, and 3 shots in the last 3 games. Even if he's making the majority of those, his ceiling isn't that high. Georges Niang, he's just not getting the minutes to get you there at 3.5. Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, I won't be going there. These rest of these guys, yeah, that you can cross off the rest of these guys for your lineup. Small forward, we got Luka Doncic. So this one is dependent on what you think the score of this Clippers-Dallas game will be. If you think that Dallas is going to keep it close, definitely get Luka Doncic into your lineup, because if Dallas is keeping it close, Doncic is going to have a huge game. Without Porzingis, he's seeing 40% usage rate. He scored 92 points, 92 fantasy points in the second to last game against the Clippers. That was a close game. He took 31 shots. He had to do it all. for the Mavericks, and he saw so many minutes just because to stay in that game, they need Doncic. So if you think the game's going to stay close, you got to put Doncic in your lineup because he's the only reason it's going to stay close. If you think that it's a blowout, he's probably only going to score like 40 points just because he's not going to get the minutes. Yeah, I don't know. This is all dependent on your thoughts on if the Clippers blow him out or not. Kawhi Leonard is up over 10K. I'd rather get to Luka Doncic at his price than Kawhi Leonard, just due to his upside. I think Kawhi, his upside game was that 64-point game. He's not gonna put up really any bigger numbers than that. Kawhi's a great player. He's not the fantasy player that Luka Doncic is, though. Paul George, playoff P or pandemic P or whatever you want to call him. He bounced back in the last game. He scored 35 on 12 for 18 shooting in only 25 minutes. So they were kind of feeding Paul George just to get his confidence back. The problem I have with Paul George is that he's more scoring dependent than a lot of these guys at these price points are. He'll get you there in rebounds, but he's only going to grab or get a couple assists per game. If you think this game stays close, I could definitely see a Luka Doncic run it back with a Paul George, Lou Williams stack. It's not my top option at the moment, but if you're going that route of the game staying close, I think you should put Paul George in your lineup. Jalen Brown is an interesting one. He's at 7-1, and he's going to play, if the game stays close, he's going to play 40 minutes. Like, he's got decent upside playing 40 minutes. He's the third offensive guy on that team behind Tatum and Kemba. He's going to grab you a couple rebounds, but he's basically reliant on his scoring. I think I'd rather go to Kemba at 7-2. Or Tatum at 9-2 are probably more favorable in my opinion, but Brown's definitely viable. Tim Hardaway Jr., he's questionable. Sure, he's like the number 2 option with Porzingis out. I just can't get to Tim. I think he'll play, but he's so scoring dependent. Like, even if he scores, let's say 25 points, you might only be getting 30 fantasy points out of him. Like, you could have a huge day and still not get you there, or get you a GPP winning score, with his, just because of how scoring dependent he is. But I'm not going there. I think that you could go to cheaper Mavs value that have similar projections. Joe Ingles. I won't be getting to Joe Ingles. His assist numbers were higher back in the early part of the series, just due to Mike Conley being out, and Joe Ingles was kind of asked to do some of the point guard duties because he's a pretty good passer. He's kind of a scoring dependent guy as well, and it's hard to be a scoring dependent guy when there's a lot of options in front of you. Clarkson, Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert, Mike Conley. These guys are going to shoot the ball more than Joe Ingles is, so I don't really see the upside there. Norman Powell. So this is his last game is huge, 44 points. He saw that because Kyle Lowry got injured, so Norman Powell saw a run with the starters. Huge game. Like, I'm not talking down how big of a game that Powell had. He did it all in 24 minutes. Didn't get any garbage time run. So Powell has that upside, especially at 5-1, that could win you a GPP. I just don't think it's the day to go to it, just because I think his ownership is going to be really high. And I think if you fade the ownership, he's got a low floor too. Like, he's got 9 points here, 19 points there. Like, if his ownership is reaching 30%, like, and he's got that low of a floor, I think it's best to probably fade him. Let's see here. We got all these guys. Landry Shamet. I think you're only getting there if not Reggie Jackson, if Patrick Beverly misses, then you can get to Shamet. Like I said, there's not much cheap options. Shamet, he's going to play low 20s minutes, probably get you to 15 to 20 fantasy points. You know, it's not flashy, but if you want to fit some high-priced guys in your lineup, you got to take a dart throw somewhere. So Shamet could be that guy. Torrey Craig, he's not going to do it. He's just such a low usage guy. Doesn't really do anything. Kind of wraps it up for that. PJ Dozier, I didn't know. Why is he small forward eligible? Shooting guard, Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell's up there in price. No one's going to play Donovan Mitchell today, which I think you get an edge by playing him. But I think if you play him, you probably want to stack the game. High usage. I actually think his usage... Yeah, his usage in the last 3 games have been 37%, 50%, and 28%, which is extremely high. So if you're banking on that usage and 25 shots in this game, he's definitely a doable option. I don't think that the field is really going to be there. Not my favorite play, but he's definitely a leverage play with pretty high upside. Fred VanVleet at 7-7. Fred VanVleet, if this is a close game, Fred VanVleet's going to play 40 minutes, I think. So you look at this game. He played against Brooklyn. This is a close game. Played 43 minutes, only shot 8 for 22. So like not a good shooting day. And he scored 49 fantasy points and crushed his value. So Fred VanVleet is this guy who's going to play a lot of minutes in a close game. He can rebound, he can pass, he can score. Fred VanVleet's such a high energy guy that he can get you there. Gets a lot of steals too, 1.8 per game. I'm really interested in Fred VanVleet on today's slate. Lou Williams, he's a really high upside in the mid-range today. I think it's also really risky. He's on a team with a lot of guys who are high usage guys. So if Lou Williams is gonna have a big game, someone like Paul George probably isn't gonna play that well because Lou Williams probably gonna be that second scoring punch with Kawhi to get to like extreme value. Obviously we've seen those upside games from Lou Williams. I don't think I'm gonna get there today. I'll let others chase. Marcus Smart is an interesting one. I think Marcus Smart is going to be extremely low owned. The nice part about Marcus Smart is since Gordon Hayward got injured, he's playing 40 minutes a game. He's very low usage. I think he only sees like a 10% usage rate. But he can get you there in rebounds and assists. And if he takes 8 to 10 shots and he's shooting well, he could definitely crush his salary. I think he'll definitely be overlooked on today's slate. Not the most flashy option, not something you're gonna get really excited about, but I think you can get some leverage by playing Marcus Smart today instead of like a Jalen Brown or a Kemba Walker. Jordan Clarkson at 5'3", he jacks up shots. If you jack up that many shots, you're going to have upside. He's really scoring dependent. I don't usually get to Jordan Clarkson just because if he's shooting bad, his floor is so low. And if he plays well, I'm just going to accept it. Like, it's Jordan Clarkson. I can't really bank on him playing well. Talk about scoring dependent. Seth Curry. Oh, my gosh. If Seth Curry isn't hitting his shots, he's going to destroy your lineup. Last game, he had 5.5 fantasy points. Shot 2 for 6. Sure, it was a blowout, but he's getting 1 assist, 3 assists, 1 rebound. Like, he's got to score 20 points. He's got to score 20 points or he's not going to get you to value. It's that simple. Gary Harris is an interesting one. I wouldn't... If he does play, he hasn't played all series. If he does play, I wouldn't play him. But the thing to look at is if he does play, he's going to be on a minutes limit, but it's still going to hurt the value of the other Nuggets players on the slate. So if he plays, it's kind of a hit to all those guys. Terrence Davis, he got blowout run. I wouldn't play him. And that kind of does it for shooting guard. We'll move on to point guard here. Luka, we talked about Luka, high upside, like he can crush if the game's close. Jamal Murray, his price got bumped up. I think 2 weeks ago he was at, no, 2 games ago he was at 6'8", and now he's at 8'6". I think that ownership's going to be high, but I also really like Jamal Murray because he's going to see 40 minutes. He's going to jack up shots. Last 2 games, he got 26 and 31 shots. If this game's close, he's going to take that amount of shots again. And not only is he taking those shots, he's getting rebounds, he's getting assists. 11 rebounds, 8 rebounds, 8 assists, 7 assists. Like, he's going to add value other than his shooting. And he's got super high upside. He, as we saw, he's gone for 82 and 68 in the last 2 games. Sure, the ownership's going to be high, but I still like Jamal Murray in this matchup, and I think that he's going to have another big game if Denver stays in this one. Him and Jokic are just like, the team's totally reliant on them having big games to stay in these. Kyle Lowry, who'll be coming back from injury, he's probable. I'd rather get to Fred VanVleet at 7-7, but I think the majority of the field would too. If you're looking for leverage, you could play Kyle Lowry. I think Kyle Lowry's probably going to see Kemba Walker guarding him and I think Fred VanVleet's going to see Marcus Smart. So that's definitely an upgrade to Kyle Lowry just because he's not going to have as hard as a matchup as Fred VanVleet. Mike Conley at 6'6". I'm just not going to get there. Just watching Mike Conley, I just don't think he's that great of a player anymore. Sure, he's like scored 30 in the last 3 games, get some assists for you, get some steals. I'm just not going to get there. I'd rather get to some higher price options. Maybe move up to Kemba or Fred VanVleet instead of paying 6 for Conley. Kemba Walker. I really like Kemba Walker on this slate. Since Gordon Hayward got injured, he's seen a 30% usage rate. This 26-minute game was a blowout, so he didn't see his full allotment of minutes. On the games that were close, he saw 35 and 36, and he put up big numbers. Like, he's going to shoot the ball quite a bit. He can pass, even though his assist numbers haven't been that high in the last 2 games. I think Kemba Walker's got a pretty high ceiling, especially for his price tag. And I'll probably have him in a lot of my lineups for today. Let's see. Trey Burke. He's going to see probably mid-30s minutes. I think he can definitely get you there if the game's close. That's the thing. Like, if you're saying the game's close, I think I would definitely put in Burke and Luka Doncic if you think the game stays close, just because they're pretty high usage guys, especially with Kristaps out. So those guys will need to have pretty solid games. Monte Morris, Mike Malone's minutes are all over the place. I'm not going to get to Monte Morris. Reggie Jackson, I'm probably going to cram Reggie Jackson into my lineups. It's not sexy, but if Patrick Beverley is out, Reggie Jackson is going to give you hopefully 20 points at 3-8, 20. And then that's on this slate with little value. Like, that's kind of what you're asking for. You can't really ask for too much more. So if you're looking for value, Reggie Jackson is definitely a viable option. Landry Shamet, like we said, viable option. Delon Wright, he only got run in garbage time, basically, so I wouldn't see much production out of him. Yeah, and that kind of wraps it up for the slate. So basically, what I have to say is the key to this slate is Clippers Dallas. Last game the Clippers focused playing defense on Doncic. They blew them out by 40. Like, that is definitely something that can easily happen again today. I mean, I think that this is all based on what you think about if the game stays close. If you think the game stays close, I think this is a really, really good game stack game. Trey Burke, Luka Doncic. You can also get to Montrez Harrell in there too. Boban's viable. Reggie Jackson. A lot of these guys are viable. Paul George. You can get to a lot more options in this game than the other games, just because these other games are so top heavy. Like in the Denver-Utah game, Donovan Mitchell, Jokic, Murray, Gobert, Conley. Like, these guys carry basically all of the usage, all of the points for their entire teams on their backs. Like, you can't really game stack it because the upside on the rest of the guys is so low. Boston, Toronto. I think this is my favorite game on the slate, just because my opinion doesn't say that Clippers and Dallas stays close. But so yeah, I like in this game, I really like Kemba Walker, Fred VanVleet. I think Serge Ibaka is viable, but also kind of scary. Marcus Smart, I think, is a little bit of an under the radar option. Norman Powell's got high upside. OG Anunoby's gonna play the minutes. I really like this game. But yeah, that kind of wraps it up. If you guys like this video, want me to keep putting out more, just give you a like. Sauce it a like, just subscribe. I'll keep bringing you more content. Like I said, I'm not trying to build your lineups for you. I'm just trying to give you a deeper look and another way to look at this slate through another person's eyes, maybe to help you decide between a couple players and maybe feel more confident about the picks you have now. That kind of wraps it up. Thank you guys. I'll be coming out with videos soon. Like and subscribe if you love the video. Thanks.